Russ, is the percentage of, from each vineyard the same from vintage to vintage, or does it varies with now?
No, and I should tell you, now's the time to talk about the exception. About 12 years ago, the University of California at Davis, which Ron and Diane have been big supporters of, approached us because they had lost a purchaser for the fruit from the Oakville Station, which is the university's viticultural experiment station, which is right behind, if you know the valley, right behind Farniente and just down the hill from Harlan. So it's a nice piece of dirt up there in Oakville. And they had a winery sort of back out of their commitment to buy the fruit. It's an odd commitment to buy fruit from a university that's doing radical experiments in a vineyard, because you never know what you're going to get. Sometimes you don't get much of anything. Like, you know, those graduate students, they'll come in and they'll say, you know what we should really do? We should do a cluster thinning trial. As though cluster thinning has never been done and needs a lot of research. So, but you know, they got to do their papers, and they got to do their things. So that's fabulous. So what Ron and Diane decided to do was to just every year give a donation to the university, and whatever Cabernet comes off the station is whatever we get. So it's not a price per ton. It's just sort of whatever we get. It's interesting that in 2001 we had a fair bit off the Oakville Station, and it was gorgeous. In fact, we make another wine called the Limited, and in our 30 years of history, we've made 11 vintages of this Limited, which is kind of our hedonist's wine. It's you know, it's unlike the Solo, which you'll have, which is a single vineyard expression. The Limited is a kind of the, you know, the yummy barrels, right? And in fact, in '01, unusually, quite a bit of the Limited actually came from the Oakville Station. So it was that was a great year. But in other years, you know, you get what you get. But it's a fabulous relationship, because what they do on site there, for me, having 400 acres to farm, is really cool. And for example, 3 years ago, they started a native flora cover crop trial to look at fixing soils, and this is all part of, you know, the Napa River thing. That, you know, what kind of native flora could you put in between the vines to make sure you didn't have sedimentary runoff get into the river? Because you may know, I mean, we have very young soils in Napa, so vigor is not our problem. You know, we got plenty of that. We're not really interested in doing a lot of nitrogen reintroduction into the soils. We don't need a lot of energy. Well, you know, we kind of need the opposite. So native cover crop is a great way to do that. You're not really, it's not like you plant sweet pea and, you know, and oats and stuff where, you know, the nitrogen gets back in the soil. So it's really great. You know, it's drought resistant. It's, you know, it's natural, and it actually it keeps, you know, runoff from occurring. And we actually, you know, stole that right out of their experiment before they were even finished with it. We were so impressed with how that went. Of course, you know, my dad, you know, who, you know, grows grapes in the Central Valley, where, as he likes to say, the wines are so big, you've got to put them in big bottles. You know, he always accuses me of not really farming. You know, what we do up in Napa is actually gardening. And, you know, I was so excited about describing this, you know, native flora cover crop to him, and I wanted him to come up and see it, and we were looking at it, and he looked at me and he said, well, Russ, you know those are weeds, right? And that's really what it is, basically. But it's the right weeds, it's the right California weeds that UC Davis really developed there, and so they do a tremendous amount of good there, and it's a great relationship, and it's our one sort of glorious exception to the, you know, proprietor-grown rule at Silverado. So. Good. Well, what do you think of these wines? Yeah?
Pretty good. I noticed you've got one of them in the Magnum. Which one of these two?
So, no. So I think they both came out. Right. So these both came out of Magnum. So yeah. So this is the 91, and that's the 01. and you'll have
Do
the old.
you believe that the Magnum is the best sort of format? For
I love it. Yeah, I love it. I mean, 3 liters is pretty good too.